I hope you have had a chance to read through our spring general meeting information. I just wanted to give you some points on our commitment to the ministry during this time, our passion collectively to enrich and hold together the Calvary community. From the moment it became apparent that we were going to be separated from each other for an extended time our ministry team has made it our passion to do what we could to not allow physical distancing to become a community disconnect. Thanks for all that you have done as a church family to keep in touch with your eternal brothers and sisters. It has meant so much to us to know that you've been working so diligently to keep our community together. And I also want to thank our ministry staff who've gone above and beyond the call of duty to work so hard to make certain that we are keeping in contact with each other and doing the best that we can to hold together our community, our communion, while we are separated from each other. And as many of my friends have remarked, and as our ministry team has discovered, during this time, the workload just seems to be even more pronounced than it is when we are working from the church office. So thank you for your prayers for us and all that's meant. And we've been working very diligently to try and make certain that we keep ministry going as best we can to you. Some of the key connections that I wanted to point out to you are as soon as it became apparent we weren't going to be able to meet at the church, we wanted to make sure we got our DCs going into a virtual Zoom platforms as soon as possible, and that's been happening. Thank you for your engagement in that. You've just done fantastically with that. Created midday moments with our pastors so that you're connecting with them 7 days a week, and thanks for your engagement in that. It's been fantastic. Putting all of our regional ministries online so that everyone can participate at whatever age you are and whatever your ministry connections were. And then we've personally called the whole church family, or in the process of that. We've almost completed that, our first round of that, to check in on you and see how you're doing. And then we've provided Sunday visuals of multiple familiar faces that with the choir and our worship leaders and that kind of thing. So we've been doing that as long as possible to make sure that you're seeing the people that you love and know and familiarity with the ministry here at Calvary. Secondly, I wanted to review with you our strategy to do no harm and to help the hurting and harmed, that two-stage strategy and tactic that I shared with you on a Sunday night just as we were moving into the COVIDian exile. Just to give you an update of what's been going on, we immediately shut down the building and are maintaining no more than 5 people on site ever, as per government guidelines. All our staff are working from home except taping services, and then we usually have just one person speaking and a couple of technicians. We're building care and necessary administration on-site work. So those kinds of things, taking care of our building, taking care of some necessary administration, that's happening in the building as well. But never more than 5 people. We are in the process of emptying all of our food pantries and delivering all of our supplies to local partners for distribution to the homeless, and that's in process. And we would encourage you to be part of that yourself, making certain that people are taken care of. And then we've, Pastor Nick initiated a weekly 24-hour prayer initiative, and that's going well. And so participate in that when you see it on Facebook. And then our benevolence ministries are on standby as needed. Thirdly, I wanted to talk to you, well, actually, before I leave that, in the whole harm strategy, there's another harm issue that I want to address right now, and that is the potential for harm of rivalries and division and wrangling among us, particularly in this time of high emotion. People are losing their jobs, people are unwell, people are losing some family members. And within our congregation, there's a variety of opinions on what should be happening right now and how people should be acting and how our government should be responding. And if we're not careful, we'll divide ourselves. We'll divide our union, the Calvary Union. And I want to urge you to be very, very careful at this time. Opinions, theories, strategies, tactics vary. I've learned over these years, many years in leadership, that you have to make a decision with the best information that you have. You have to go with that decision. You have to stick to that decision, and you have to play that decision through. And there are lots of people who would choose to do something in a different way. And so our government and governments have chosen a direction, and history will decide whether it was right or wrong. But as far as it is within the Calvary communion, the Calvary union, let's make sure we don't harm each other. Let's make sure we don't wrangle with each other. Let's make sure we respect differing opinions. There's no proven right way to do this COVIDian exile. And but there is a proven reality of our love for one another in Christ. And let's respect and expect differing opinions, but let's love each other no matter what. Please, let's not do harm to ourselves. I said this at the very beginning of when we went into this. This is not a time for criticism. This is a time for coming together and connecting with each other and sticking together. So let's please do that. I also want to share with you, thirdly, details concerning our tactics to pause, to pivot, and to plan for return as best we can. I mean, according to government restrictions, we had to pause and we had to pivot the ministry. And so on March 14th, many of you gathered at the church. That was the last Sunday that we were actually together. 250 people were permitted to be in the building at any one time. And so we prepared Calvary at both 300 and 301 to host up to 250 in two services, which would have given us a capacity of 1,000. About 300 of you showed up that day and spread yourselves out, so we didn't come anywhere near the thresholds. But from that point forward, all of our services went online. And since that time, we've been adjusting and pivoting mission at Calvary, and you have been witness to that. We've made the necessary pivots, I think, to deliver a robust ministry. I get, based on the feedback I'm getting from you, you seem to agree with us, including several new ministry initiatives, especially designed just for this moment. It's unlikely that many of the things that we've had to do to go online will continue on after we come back together. So we are currently in an ongoing pause and pivot combination time, seeking to interpret the challenge of government, the governmental landscape for doing ministry. We're intentionally monitoring the pace of ministry so we don't carelessly just fill space with a new paradigm of frenetic activity, that needs to be preserved for whatever pivot the Lord has for us coming out the other side of this. So we want to be very careful. And I want to make the point to you very carefully that I know many of you are enjoying the different things that we've been doing online, but we've reconstructed the paradigm of our ministry for a time of separation. It's not necessarily the ministry paradigm that works when we're collectively back together. So I just want to urge you to understand that and make sure that you recognize that. And so in light of that, this time needs much more pause probably than pivot, and prayer and analysis, and we're trying to do that. We're trying to listen to people and get counsel from people and pay attention to what's going on. So in terms of a hardcore plan for return to social contact ministry, or however we want to call it, however we want to envision it, we're not entirely certain what that's going to look like, because currently ministry leadership are tentatively exploring what return to post-COVIDian exile, if we can call it that, ministry might look like. And of course, there are two key factors that will determine for us what that's going to look like, what the strategies and tactics are going to be. One of those factors is, of course, our government, and the other is our God. And of course, these are necessarily fluid, at the present time. And by the way, our Lord takes precedent over all other things. The government is a moving target for sure. Every day it's a little bit different and very non-committal at this time. So we really can't tell you exactly what time or what's going to happen. And I hope I'm not sounding like our premier, but that's just a fact. We're waiting on him. It will be a tragic waste of the pandemic if Calvary leadership ignore careful analysis of what the Lord is telling Calvary and the global church at this time. Return to what God has for us will be one of the most important decisions we have made in decades. So please pray about it. Pray intently about it. Some of it for a while will be controlled by the governing authorities. But we want to assure you that what we believe and understand is that government is not God, as Francis Schaeffer so well put it. And God will be the determining factor for what we do and how we go forward. But here are some of the key considerations that I've been thinking about and praying about and gleaning from other world leaders, leaders around me, our ministry leaders. This could very well be a dress rehearsal for worse. I don't want to be a bearer of bad news, but I think it's important for us to understand this. Crisis reveals flaws and strengths, deficiencies and preparedness. It clarifies dependencies and idols. It magnifies our character, good and bad. All of these things I've been thinking about, and I hope you are as well, and praying about, analyzing, looking at my own life, looking at the life of our church, the ministry of our church. And things that I've learned for our church and from our church leadership to consider, and leaders of other ministry areas. We need to grab the good and go with what we get from the Lord. So let's think about a couple of things. Number one, God is sovereign. God is in charge through this time. He always is, and purposeful. So listen, 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 and follow his leading of the global church. It's his building plan. It's Christ's building plan. And he is setting the context and conditions for our contribution to Christian redemptive history going forward. This pause and pivot may be all about the church. Have you thought about that? Let's listen to him carefully. Number two, what I have discovered, and you are discovering or have discovered as well, that government can go totalitarian in a split second, in a New York minute. Partisanism, which isn't a word, but I think it needs to be, is a ruse. Governing is governing, and power is grabbed to secure governance, regardless of alleged partisan ideology. What I've noticed is everybody is doing the same thing, whether you're right wing or left wing, as far as governments go. So, what really is the difference between liberal, progressive, conservative, NDP when it comes right down to it? Therefore, the church is vulnerable everywhere. And to ignore governmental capacities for a swift power grab in Canada is reckless of us. Government isn't God. Let's be careful. Church is triumphant in any governing scenario. I believe there's more gospel being proclaimed throughout the world right now than ever in the history of the world. Number three, institutions, programming, bricks and mortar, even online, are all vulnerable to worst case scenarios. China's shutting down online and cannot make discipleship happen in and of themselves. As our good friend Edmund Chan says, mediums systems are different than delivery systems when it comes to the gospel. Delivery continues to be incarnational. They can shut down all of our mediums and all of our systems, but they can't change the delivery system of the gospel person to person. Delivery continues to be incarnational. It always has, it always will. Therefore, it's imperative to make certain that all believers are discipled to be equipped to possibly be on their own, as Ashok Andrews carefully cautioned us. We need to be discipling people. At minimum, smaller house church gatherings are closer to reality than ever. That's why we are so passionately committed to our ministry of discipleship and seeking to develop you into fully committed disciples of Christ, fully equipped disciples of Christ. Worst case scenarios. We have seen a dress rehearsal of what it is to be shut in our own houses. It's possible that in a worst case scenario, all of our medium could be shut down. All of our medium by totalitarian governments could be cut off. China is cutting off. So it's absolutely critical in these days that you participate in your discipling group, your small group, taking every advantage of equipping yourself right now for the possibility that you may be on your own, having to disciple your own family. Men, take leadership in this moment. If you're not in a small group gathering, if you're not involved in some sort of enrichment in your own spiritual life, making certain that you're becoming fully devoted followers of Christ, this is the time now. God has given us the warning of what things can look like and how quickly things can change. So please, 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 I urge Calvary, take advantage of freedom now. This could be a dress rehearsal for worst case scenarios. Number 4, the incredible value of community and ways to preserve it, even under rigorous restrictive settings, are a mandatory part of forward tactics. Number 5, presently online mediums should seek to maximize entry into the space lost people have in their lonely, independent lives. John Taylor spoke to this so well. This is a great moment for us. A dress rehearsal, a test run of our own ability to get the ministry of Calvary, get the ministry of the gospel, more importantly, into the lives of lost people who are sitting in their homes, lonely, independent living, and there's lots of space that they are filling in with their phones and with Facebook and with all kinds of other distractions. The church needs to recognize the moment, and we are recognizing the moment and the opportunity that we have right now to get into that space with the good news of Jesus Christ and life-transforming gospel of Christ. So this time has been a good test run for us, and we're going to be analyzing and thinking and praying and pausing about what can be done and what we need to do and what we might need to be doing going forward. How can we leverage what we've learned during this time to reach into the space that lost people have right now? And number 6, the church activists must preoccupy ourselves with being. We've been so busy doing, and this is a time to think about being a believer and a church. Believers need to be ministering from who they are and absolutely must be the church. This is a good time for us to really do some reflective thinking, some introspection. It's not enough to do church, to be spectators of celebration. Oh, we long to be back together, but beloved, this is a time to be engaged in becoming all we can be in Christ, making certain that we're shoring up our spiritual lives. We must not go back to what we were before. If our former pattern is just Christian behavior, but doesn't come from who we are, it doesn't carry into worse settings. We are being pushed out of the greenhouse to grow and produce and reproduce. Our making disciples mandate, fully maturing believers. Now, 7, I want to talk to you about backdrop for focused ministry. Think about this. We are moving forward into a world that is choosing life over jobs, over money, over family, over time, over freedom, etc. Perhaps the ears and heart of the world will be more open to the hope of Christ, at least for the immediate future. So the window between this and worse may be small. Who knows where the timetable is in God's eternal program? So it's time to put on a push, as if time is just about up. This may be the final harvest that Christ is gathering. 8, I want you to consider the 12 other observations that I made from my midday moment last week on Facebook. It's on a Facebook post. Go search it. It was on Teaching Tuesday last week. And then finally, beloved, I want to share with you how I'm excited about the next series that's coming up. We're going to study together for the summer 1st and 2nd Peter. Now Peter's letters are like a sequel to Mark's Gospel because they collaborated, of course, on Mark's Gospel. And of course, Peter mentions Mark in his own letters. Now the church was, at the time of Peter, the church was scattered all over Asia Minor due to persecution, due to exile. Many of them were living most or all of their lives underground in house arrest and isolation. Whole community setups, animal stables, and I've seen them all, and all are still today explorable in modern Turkey. Not dissimilar to the situation we've just tracked through, or we're tracking through. So early Christians were certainly wondering at time about their choice to follow Christ, because they, like all of us, had come to or had grown up believing that suffering had historically symbolized God's disfavor. So you can imagine why they were unnerved being in exile. Is God angry with us? Is God turning his back on us? Did we make a mistake by following Christ? So Peter writes to instruct on Christian excellence under difficult circumstances and to remind them of their living hope, Christ Jesus, and the salvation they have. Oh, I believe this series is timely and prophetic, and it will equip us during this time to reflect on the ministry going forward and to understand who we need to be in light of these kinds of times. This will help us to equip our discipleship intentions of Calvary for this moment and however we transition from this moment. So, would you pray for a great move of God's Spirit as fruit of the proclamation of his truth to the Calvary family and beyond? We have a Calvary message to bring, and I'm looking forward to it. So be in prayer, read through the letters of Peter, familiarize yourselves with them. It's going to be a critical study for us. The decisions that we're going to need to be making right now and in the coming days are going to be the most important decisions we have made strategically, tactically, in decades. And I'm calling on Calvary to pray. Pray and read. Listen to godly leaders. Let's collectively think about what God is saying to us and where he wants us to go. Well, as I have been saying so many times, I miss you all so much. I really do. And I preach into that vacant room. It just reminds me all over again of how much I am missing you. And love you so much, and thank you so much for your time and willingness to listen to this, and just know that you are loved by Christ. You are loved by me. You are loved by our ministry team. We are working so diligently to seek to bring to you a healthy ministry and to seek to take care of your hearts as best we can because we love you so much. And we trust that you will occupy this time getting to know the Lord deeply and praying fervently and praying for your church and your leaders that the gospel will go forward. So God bless you, and have a great weekend.